All right, welcome to today's class on DocuSign 201 with KW Command. My name is Leah with Scott Leroy Marketing. In today's class, I'll be taking you through more of the advanced tips in DocuSign. So we'll be working primarily in DocuSign. However, we will log into Command to take a look at how Command and DocuSign work together. And I'll be showing you the more advanced tips in DocuSign itself. So again, if you have not taken the DocuSign 101 class, I will link that in the YouTube description below. So make sure you do watch the DocuSign 101 class first to get the full benefit of this class, right? As this will be a little faster paced and will not go over as much of the basics. All right, so first thing that we need to do, so anytime that we start a new transaction in Command with DocuSign, we always need to log into Command first. All right, so let's go ahead and log into Command. So if you could join me on my screen here, I am at agent.kw.com. And I always remember that like it's the agent login for kw.com. So agent.kw.com. Go ahead and log in with your username and password here. Now, if you have any trouble signing in with your password, first of all, I feel you. I know you have about 9 million passwords for everything. So there is an option to click to forgot password to reset that right away. If you have any issue resetting your password, shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. We just need your Command username and we can help reset the password right away. All right, so again, I'm logging into Command at agent.kw.com. And before we get started, I just need to make sure that your DocuSign account is linked to Command, right? So in order for Command and DocuSign to work together, DocuSign needs to be linked to Command. So if you could join me to check your account. So let's click on your name on the very top right of Command. And then settings from that drop down. So again, we're clicking on your name on the very top right of Command and then settings from that drop down. And that'll take you on over to your connected apps. Okay, so these apps, it'll show you which apps you currently have linked to Command, right? So kind of like an iPhone here, an Android, any smartphone, right? Command has a lot of great features out of the box. However, you can connect further apps to increase the functionality of your Command account. So let's make sure that DocuSign is one of those apps under the connected apps, right? So you will want to scroll down to find DocuSign. If that is already linked, it'll be at the top because your connected apps are listed at the top. If you have to scroll down further and you're seeing that is not connected, the status, no worries. You can go ahead and click Connect Account on the right-hand side. It gives you that option. And if you have any issues linking up your DocuSign to Command, shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. We can help troubleshoot that for you. Just a heads up, like if you had a DocuSign account previously, like before you came to KW, previously created DocuSign accounts are not compatible with Command. So they do have to be created from the Command backend specifically. So shoot us an email. We can always help you if you're having any issue linking DocuSign and Command. And again, our email is support@scottleroymarketing.com. And that's in the chat as well for you guys. All right, so now that we have that housekeeping done, we're going to go ahead and launch right into DocuSign. Now, in order to do that, I am going to overview quickly the steps that you need to take in order to start a new transaction in Command. Again, the DocuSign 101 class will go over this slowly in detail, fully explained. I'm going to show you guys quickly how I can go ahead and create an opportunity and access DocuSign. However, if you want more explanation, check out the DocuSign 101 video. Again, that's in the YouTube description below or in the chat if you're watching this live. All right, so actually, and before we do that, I do want to send out the notes for you guys as well before we kick this off. So in the chat, I am posting the notes for today's class. It's kind of like a notes and tips guide. If you're watching this recorded, I will post this in the YouTube description below. Okay, but I'm going to pull this over so you guys can see what I am referring to. All right, this was sent out in the DocuSign 101 class as well. It'll just be used slightly differently in this class. But first of all, today's class will be updated. As you can see, this is the last DocuSign 101 class at the top. But after today's class, it usually takes a couple hours to upload. So within 24 hours, if not less, I'll have the DocuSign 201 class recorded at the top and highlighted for you. All right, at the very top here, I do have written notes for you. And as you scroll down, you'll see tip videos that will kind of break down today's class into shorter 10-minute videos. So if you forget what I say in today's class, you can reference the sheet and go right to that 10-minute tip video. Also, what's cool about this is a shared doc. So this will update live for you. I am always updating the newest features on DocuSign in here. So right on this list, you'll see it'll say new feature and whatever the item is, which we're going to go over these. So if you save this to your bookmarks, you can do that by clicking the star generally on your top URL bar. And you can always come back here and see the top DocuSign tips, everything that may be new. All right, for the written notes that I'm going to pull up just to show you what I'm going through today, because it will be a little quicker, is the DocuSign steps. So the very first link, just in case you want to pull that open, these are steps 1 through 10 on how to do a transaction in Command with DocuSign. So in case you want to pull that up as well, I'm going to have this on my other screen that I will be following these exact steps to show you how to start a transaction in Command with DocuSign. And again, this will be a little faster pace that I go through this in today's class, but that is slowly gone over in the DocuSign 101 class. All right, guys. So I just pulled that to my other screen and let's kick off those steps. So of course, as you guys probably know, the first thing that you need to do when starting a transaction in Command is adding a contact to your database, right? So your contact would need to be in your database already in order to create an opportunity with them. So if you have a test contact in your account, go ahead and pull that up, right? Or if you want to click on add contact on the top right here. I'm going to go ahead and add in a practice contact. So I think I'll have Michael Scott by house today. I'm watching The Office. I like binging The Office. All right. So whoever you want to do, as far as who you're using for a test contact, I would always recommend using a personal email that you have as a test contact so that you can see what it looks like when you receive things from the system. Like if you are sent something from DocuSign, you can see from the client's perspective what that looks like. So I would recommend adding in a personal email that you may have and click create. All right, if that email is already in your Command database, of course, it will not let you add that in again to help avoid duplicates. So in that case, you can just use the search on the top left to search for that contact. All right, so first step we did was adding a contact to our database. That is always the first step to starting a transaction in Command. All right, so now what I'm going to do is pull up the contact in my Command database. So I'll go ahead and search for that on the top search bar on the left-hand side. And just simply click on the contact's name from your database to open that up. Now, there's a couple different ways to create an opportunity. Of course, you can create your opportunities from that handshake icon on the left-hand side of Command, where my mouse is circling there. All right, so that is your opportunity dashboard. You can create new opportunities straight from there. And you can also do it from the contact record, which I prefer, and I'll tell you why in just a moment here. All right, but if you click on the opportunities option on the top right, we can go ahead and click create opportunity to create that right away. I see the question in the chat, how do we delete a contact if we accidentally entered it twice? You can archive and then delete the contact. I'll grab a tip video from our channel while I'm teaching and I'll drop it in the chat. If you need help knowing how to delete a contact from your Command database, I'll drop that momentarily in the chat. All right, so as far as creating a new opportunity, so again, we pulled up the contact record, click the Opportunities tab on the white toolbar, and click Create Opportunity. And everything I'm saying, you know, these steps, if I lose you, it is on those notes that I sent out just a moment ago. So that'll have the steps that I'm going through here. And so I'm just going to highlight the 3 main fields that we have to fill out in order to proceed with our opportunity. Okay, so the three main fields that you have to pay attention to is opportunity type. So make sure you're selecting if this is a listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant. I'll go ahead and leave that as a listing for today's class, but you can do either one. All right, after opportunity type, you also need to make sure the client is filled in, which it should be already, right? Because we're creating this from the contact record. If there's a co-seller, so if someone else needs to be signing your forms, you can add that here. And all this information we are entering in will autofill into DocuSign and autofill into every form that you create. So the co-seller or the client, they all would have to be already in your database first. So that's why I've been stressing to make sure that you enter the contact first, because it will not allow you to create a contact as you're creating the opportunity. So both clients, if there is a co-seller, would need to be entered into your database first, and then you can go ahead and add both here. All right, third and final field that you have to do something with is the commission rate. So that is just talking about your side of the commission. It's okay if this changes. So if they talk you down to 2.5, you can always update that in the future. However, this is just talking about your side, so not the full 6%, your 3%, or whatever you usually charge. And then you can click create. So those are the three main fields that you have to fill out. If you are on a team, real quick, for any team member agents, please note that the contact would need to be in your team database. So if you are on a team, you can either enter your contacts directly to the team database, or if you have entered your contact in your personal database, you can move that over to the team. So this only applies to team member agents. You can move a personal contact to your team in order to create a team opportunity by clicking the three dots to the right of the client's name and click change account. And that'll give you the option to switch that over to the team so that you can create this on the team pipeline. Okay, one last thing for team member agents. So if once your contact is in the team, again, that would be required for it to be in the team database to create an opportunity on the team pipeline. Right? And that will allow your rainmaker or your team leader to view all of your opportunities off default. So as long as it's on the team, your rainmaker will be able to see all of your opportunities and help collaborate with those. Right? However, if you'd like to add other team members, I just want to point out that team opportunities, you guys get an extra field on the very bottom here. So you'll see assignees, and this will allow me to add other team members as well. So like I mentioned, your rainmaker or your team lead, the listing agent on your team, they are able to see all of your opportunities off default. However, if you'd like to add another team member to be able to collaborate on the opportunity, you would do so here. And when you click create, it'll put that on their pipeline as well. All right, so team member agents, non-team member agents, the rest will apply to you. So you can come on, zone back in here. All right, so again, just to highlight, we're the three main fields: opportunity type, your client fields, and the commission rate, and then you can click create. And so now I can see my opportunities on the right-hand side here for that contact. So I really like to search for my opportunities from the contact records in my command database. So you can search for your opportunities in a couple different ways, but just a quick tip, I find it's the fastest to pull up the contact record in command, and then you'll always see all opportunities created on the right-hand side. So if this is an investment client and he purchases multiple investment properties, you would see all of those on the right. Or for example, if you are helping the client sell their home and then buy the next home, okay, that will be two separate opportunities because it's two separate transactions, okay, or two separate properties. Right? So typically you'll have an opportunity based on the property, not the client. So with that being said, again, if you're helping a client sell and then buy, you would have two different opportunities, one for the buy side of the transaction and one for the list side of the transaction. And all could be viewed under the opportunities tab in their contact record. All right, so I'm going to click on the opportunity name that I created. And that will take me on over to the opportunity details. And guys, I do know that this is a little faster paced. So if you have any questions or if I can catch you up, if I lose you, please just let me know in the chat and I'm more than happy to do so. All right, so far, in case I've lost anyone, we just created our opportunity and simply click on the opportunity name to open up the details. All right, and we are accessing DocuSign from the Documents tab specifically. Okay, and before, don't click Start a Transaction yet, all right, because I do have a new feature that launched for you to talk about. However, I just do want to stress that it is super, super important that you are always creating your transaction in Command first. So we're creating the opportunity like we just did, and then you create the DocuSign room by clicking Start a Transaction, and don't quite yet. All right, but that is the workflow that you want to take. You do not want to be creating your rooms in DocuSign directly. It's really important that you create that from the command opportunity, and I'll explain why in just a moment. All right, but let's talk about this new feature that I am personally really excited about. And this new feature will allow forms to automatically be added to your DocuSign room when you start this. And this is a pretty brand new feature, I would say, within the last month. So not everyone will have this available. It'll depend on if your market center has set this up for your agents, but let me show you how to check. So in the Documents tab of your opportunity, on the left-hand side, you'll see an option to pick checklist type. All right, and this might vary for you. If it doesn't say pick checklist type and it already says the name of a checklist, that's totally fine too. Okay, it just depends on how many checklists your office has set up. If you do have the option to pick checklist type, you can go ahead and select whichever checklist would apply to this transaction. And again, this is specific to your office, so yours will look different than mine because your awesome office staff sets this up for you. Okay, so here's where that new feature comes in. So it's really important for this feature to work, for forms to be auto added to your DocuSign room when you create it. There's a new workflow. You would have to select the checklist first and then click Start a Transaction. And what it will do is it will automatically add any forms that have this green, blue DS next to it. So if you are seeing this teal, go with that, DS next to any of your forms here, that means that that form will automatically be added to your DocuSign room as soon as we click Start a Transaction. Now, it only works in that specific order. You have to pick the checklist first and then click Start a Transaction in order for those forms to automatically be added to your room. I'll show you how that works in just a second here. If you are not seeing this TLDS next to any of your forms, no worries, there's nothing wrong with your account. That just means that your office staff has not set this feature up quite yet. And if you are office staff on this call and would like to set that up for your agents, feel free to shoot me an email, support@scottlavorymarketing.com. You can put attention my name, which is Leah, L-E-A-H, and I do have steps for you. All right, so let's see this feature in action. So now that I picked the checklist type, I can now click Start a Transaction on the right-hand side. And if you only have DocuSign link, that should take you straight to DocuSign, or you can go ahead and select DocuSign. All right, and it will prompt you to log in to DocuSign the first time each day for security purposes, just a heads up. So the DocuSign login and password is one of the 9 million passwords you'll have to remember if you want to jot that down on your phone or wherever you keep your passwords. And feel free to take your time if you're still working on logging into DocuSign, no rush. I just want to show you guys that, as you can see, now I have this new room created, right, which is the name of my opportunity. And I have these 5 forms automatically added because those were noted with a TLDS, right, from the checklist. So those forms automatically were added to my DocuSign room when I create this. Now, this is, again, a pretty brand new feature within the last month. So it is a very cool feature, really great time saver. I am, of course, going to show you how you can add additional forms. All right, but the idea of this feature is just to expedite, some of the main forms that you need. Go ahead and add that to your room. Yeah, sure. So just to go over that one more time, how we got that. Okay, so it is very important that you pick the checklist first. Okay, so whenever you come into your opportunity, So you open your opportunity and click on the Documents tab. On the left-hand side, it'll either say pick a checklist type, or it'll show you the checklist name already. And you can go ahead and select whichever checklist would apply. Now, this feature is only activated if you notice this TLDS next to any of the form names. If you're not seeing that TLDS, no worries, your office just hasn't set this up quite yet. Again, it's a brand new feature, so that will be coming soon. And once you pick the checklist type, you can click Start a Transaction, and it will automatically add all of the forms with the TLDS to your room. Now, this will not work if you don't do that specific order of the workflow. So if you've already started your transaction, and I can tell because it says, go to transaction on the top right instead of start a transaction now. So if it already says go to transaction, that means your room's been created and you wouldn't be able to use that feature on existing rooms. It would have to be done on a brand new room. Let me know if you have any questions on that. It is a really awesome feature. If you need any help, let me know. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys, so I'm switching tabs not to lose anyone. You will have your Command Documents tab open, and then you should have a Documents tab for your DocuSign room. So I'm switching over to DocuSign. I'm going to quickly explain how DocuSign and Command work together. Like, I always wondered why do I have a Command Documents section and a DocuSign Documents section? That confused me, right? So let me explain how the two systems work together. So DocuSign, so the DocuSign Documents tab. DocuSign is where you'll go to access all of your forms. DocuSign is being used between the agent and your client to access, edit, and send your forms for electronic signatures. So again, DocuSign is being used between the agent and your client. Whereas the Command Documents tab, I'm just going to switch back, not to lose anyone, you can stay where you are. Command Documents tab is being used between you, the agent, and your market center to add your signed forms to submit for compliance review. So again, DocuSign used between you, the agent, and your client to get your forms signed. Once the forms are signed, then the Command Documents tab is being used to add your signed forms to submit to your market center for review. And of course, I'll show you more about that as we go along, but that helps differentiate the two systems to help understand how they work together. Let me know if you have any questions on that. Oh, Debbie's question is, by chance, why whenever I click start the transaction, it's not directing to DocuSign? A quick question, Debbie, is nothing happen when you click start a transaction? If you're clicking start a transaction and nothing's happening, like DocuSign is not automatically pulling up, that is typically because of your pop-up blocker being on. So when you click start a transaction, check your URL bar. Usually if a pop-up is blocked, you'll see a little window with an X, and that'll allow you to allow pop-ups. So check your pop-up settings. Let me know if that's not the case, Debbie, and I can help you further with that. All right, so now that I have my documents added to my room, okay, those are those default forms that were added in. Let me show you guys again, or remind you, hopefully you guys have a hang on how to add your forms to DocuSign. All right, so I'm going to show you guys that quickly here. From the Documents tab of DocuSign, so I'm in DocuSign specifically, is where you'll go to access your blank forms. In the Documents tab, I'm clicking on Add on the top right and selecting the DocuSign Forms option. So that's second option down. All right, and that may prompt you, if you get another pop-up before you see this one, prompting you to select like the Realtor Association, for example, you can go ahead and click to skip that for now, if you would like to see if your forms are already in there, and I'll show you how you can add your NERDS ID in a moment here. So once you do, and Debbie, so is it just not doing anything at all when you click start a transaction? Maybe try a different browser to see if that'll help. I'd be happy to take a look after class, of course, but just hoping you can get in now. All right, so this will have your forms pulled up, and on the left-hand side, of course, we have your folders split up into groups to make it a little easier for you guys to locate your forms in DocuSign. And you also have your libraries on the left-hand side. Of course, if you're in a different area than North Carolina, you'll have different forms, totally fine, all right? And this is how you can pull in further forms though. So you can kind of search around whichever folder would seem to have your form. You can use the search bar here to search, for if you're looking for a listing agreement or whatever the case may be. You can go ahead and select the forms that you need and click Add Selected. All right, so you can easily add extra forms to your account by clicking Add on the top right of your Documents tab to add these DocuSign forms. Okay, so the DocuSign forms right from here, right from Add, that's where you can go to access more of your forms. Now, if you are pulling this up and it is saying no access, it says something like that if your NERDS ID is not in. Okay, I'll show you real quick how you can add your NERDS ID to DocuSign so you can have access to your forms. Typically, your NERDS ID will be required to access your interactive board forms. And that's just a fancy word to describe the forms being fillable. So forms you can open and just start typing those in. So if it's showing no access to your forms, just a heads up, you can real quick, you can just click on your headshot or your initials on the top right of DocuSign to select the preferences. Again, if it's showing no access to your forms, click your headshot or initials in a circle on the top right, then preferences, then integrations on the left-hand side. And this is where you'll be able to add a provider where you'll want to select the National Association of Realtors. I already have my NERDS ID in, so that's why it's grayed out, right? But I will send out a tip video as well on how to get your NERDS ID linked up. So if you have any issue linking that up, again, I'll send over a short 5-10 minute video in the chat. All right, so let's go on back to your dashboard. So this was just, again, if you did not have access to your forms, that's how you can add that. And I am putting this in the chat as well for the instructions, because I know that was a super quick explanation on how to add your NERDS ID in. Putting that in the chat. Bob, to answer your question, the question is, where will this video be available for the session? So once this is done recording, all right, I'll have this up within 24 hours. I will include this on the top of the notes that I sent out. Let me grab that for you guys again. So I'm just putting again in the chat the notes for today's class, and I will put this recording on the very top of those notes highlighted for the DocuSign 201 class. All right, so we're navigating back to our DocuSign room where I'm going to talk a little bit more about editing PDFs in DocuSign. So in our dashboard, you can click on the dashboard or the rooms option to navigate to access your room that you've been working on, either one. And once you open your room, make sure to click on the Documents tab. All right, so again, we're in our DocuSign room and you will need to click on the Documents tab. And just a heads up, so editing any of these forms that have that blue form icon, that blue form icon here will mean that it's a fillable form. So if I'm to open this up, I can just simply click to start typing. I just want to show you this because it is different than a PDF. So these fillable forms, I do go over in detail in the DocuSign 101 class, how to edit and send these forms. If you want a 30-minute overview of how to do this, I put that in the chat just now. It is on the notes I sent out as well. All right, but you'll notice all these interactive forms. So when I say DocuSign interactive form, what I mean is you can simply click to start typing. All right, so again, if you want more information on editing these interactive forms and sending for electronic signatures, I sent out the chat for the 30-minute overview, or sent out the video in the chat rather. So now let's talk about adding PDFs though. Okay, so the difference is PDFs are not automatically editable. So let's talk about when we would want to use this feature first, and then we'll kick it off. So let's say the agent on the other side sent you a contract signed by their client. So let's say the contract is signed by the buyer and now it's been sent to you in your email. And so you have a PDF of the contract, and you need to send that to your listing clients to go ahead and execute the contract. Okay, but lo and behold, your listing clients went on vacation to Disney World. All right, so you have to send this electronically. So I'm going to show you how you can upload a PDF of a form that was sent to you maybe as an email attachment, so you can add signature and initial fields for your clients to sign that. All right, so on the top right of the Documents tab of your DocuSign room, in the Documents tab of your DocuSign room, let's go ahead and click on Add on the top right. And before we were clicking that DocuSign Forms option to access our fillable forms, in this case, we're going to click Add and select from computer instead, though. All right, so in this example, you would need to download the attachment from your computer. You need to download the attachment from your email to your computer. Sorry, lots of words. All right, so if you do get a PDF via email, you'll download that to your computer. And now I'm just going to go ahead and find that PDF so I can pull it into DocuSign. So if you guys have a PDF that you want to practice with, feel free to go ahead and pull that in, or you can just watch on my screen. Okay, and I can see already the difference between the PDF and the interactive forms, because the interactive forms are just automatically fillable, have that blue form icon, and then the PDFs will have this orange PDF icon here. Okay, so if I open the PDF, you'll notice it is not editable. So that's the main difference between the two types of forms. However, DocuSign does allow you to make the PDFs editable. So I'll show you how that works. So go ahead and again, we added that PDF by clicking on Add on the top right of our DocuSign room and click from computer. Okay, so again, in this example, we received the PDF attached to an email, we downloaded it to our computer, and now we've added that to DocuSign. So now in order to edit this, to add signatures or initial fields, I do need to pull the form into an envelope first. All right, so to edit PDFs, you have to pull the form into an envelope first. There's a couple different ways that you can go about pulling forms into envelopes. If you open the form like I have it here, I'm going to do so by clicking on the document actions on the top right and selecting Create Envelope. So again, I pulled open the PDF. Click on the document actions, which the icon looks like a folded sheet of paper on the top right. And then we're selecting the option near the bottom of that dropdown. Let's create envelope. Right, if you are newer to DocuSign, the term envelope is probably pretty new to you as well. So just to kind of make sense of the word envelope for you, try to think of snail mail, right? So anytime that you were to go send, forms via snail mail, what's the first thing you would do? You would grab an envelope, right? So we grab the envelope, we have our documents added into that. Right, so here are the documents in my envelope. I can add further forms if I would like to from my room by clicking Room Docs. Right, and after I grab an envelope, what's the next thing I would do? I add the form and then I add the recipients to the envelope. So under Add Recipient, let's go ahead and click on that. And select the top option, which will be Room Participants. So whenever you're adding recipients, main thing to remember is always select the top option. So in this case, room participants. And then I'll pull up all the people that are currently in this room. Okay, you should see your clients automatically on this list because your client's information autofills from command. So since we added your contacts in command first and then created the opportunity, it does pull over all of their contact information, their name, their email address, so forth, into DocuSign to autofill on all spots. So that's just one of the many benefits of starting your opportunity in command first to create the DocuSign room. So under add recipients, again, we clicked room participants, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the check boxes for the clients. I need to sign this. Now, as far as adding yourself, you do not need to add yourself to the envelope unless it's a form that you need to sign. All right, so now that we have added in the recipients, we can click on next on the top right to further edit the form. All right, but before we do, I just want to show you guys one more quick tip, all right, while we're here, and that is how to notify your transaction coordinator or your mortgage provider, or maybe your admin on your team that a form has been signed. Okay, so in case that you want a notification to go to whoever it may be, your transaction coordinator, admin, mortgage provider after the form is signed, here's how you would do that from the envelope. Okay, so that would have to be done from the envelope you're sending from. So how we do that is click on add recipients and select the email address option this time. Okay, so if you're adding someone extra like their mortgage provider or your transaction coordinator, we can add that by email address in this case. So I can go ahead and put in, the mortgage provider's name or my transaction coordinators, and then the email. All right, but here's where things really get interesting. Okay, so again, in this case, I want my client, or I'm sorry, I want my transaction coordinator or the mortgage provider to receive a copy of this once it's been signed by my clients marked as a 1. Now, again, if you're newer to DocuSign, these numbers on the left-hand side will be new to you. All right, so what you can do, or what this means, is anyone marked with a 1 will all get the form at the same time. Okay, so once I click send, right, it'll go instantly to all parties marked as a 1. In this case, though, I want my transaction coordinator to receive that after both of my clients have signed. So I'm going to leave both clients as a 1, and they both can sign. Okay, so I see both will receive that immediately. They both can sign here. And then my transaction coordinator, I'm going to mark as a 2. So she receives that after the parties marked with a 1 have done their action, signed. I'm going to change hers, right, her role, to just needs to view. All right, so typically if it's a mortgage provider, a transaction coordinator, admin, they just need to view the form. Oh, actually, sorry, if you wrote that down, let's edit that. Let's do instead receives a copy, and I'll tell you the difference. All right, so instead receives a copy. If you were taking notes on that, change that to receives a copy. The difference between the two is if you select needs to view, it'll require the transaction coordinator or whoever it is to view the form before you receive the signed copy back. And I'll expand more on how this works with signed forms. All right, but if you click on the receives a copy option, that will not affect anything as far as you receiving the signed form back as soon as your clients have signed. Okay, so again, Mark receives a copy, and with a 2, and what will happen is, again, transaction coordinator would receive that after both parties marked as a 1 have signed. So pretty cool. If you have any questions on that, please just let me know. And I'm going to click the next option on the top left, or top right, I mean. The next option on the top right SJG, for your question in the chat, you can add additional people to the people tab of your DocuSign room directly, or you can add them right here from the envelope. Either one will work. If you have further questions on that, shoot me an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. Just put attention to my name, which is Leah, L-E-A-H, and I'd be happy to expand on that. All right, so we added in our recipients. I'm clicking next on the top right. And that will take me to the envelope where I can actually edit the PDF. So when I mean I can edit the PDF, I mean I can add initial and signature fields, text fields, and so forth on the left-hand side. Now, please note that on interactive forms, right, those forms that I can open and just start typing in, that blue form icon, those forms will automatically add initial and signature boxes to your form at this point. So once you pull the interactive forms into your envelope and add the recipients, it will automatically add initial and signature boxes. However, for PDFs, that would have to be done manually. Okay, so again, in this example, the buyer client has signed the contract, the buying agent sent that over to you via email. So you save that to your computer as a PDF. And now we need to add that to DocuSign like we have to add initial fields for your client to sign as well. Right, so on the left-hand side, I see those boxes here, right? I can see an option for signature and initial. Something interesting though, if you click on the drop down on the very top left, you'll notice that you have both your client's names along with that coordinated color. And if you change the client that's in that drop down, you'll notice it changes the color of all of these fields here. So you would need to add an initial box for each of your clients. So you should have one of each color for them to be able to sign. So I have one client added and I'll select the initial option here. Go ahead and line that up with wherever I want to drop it on the form and click to drop it. So now I want to go ahead and do the same thing for my client 2. So I want to change the drop down first on the top left. And I can tell that it changes the color of the initial box. So I can go ahead and select, line that up, and drop it right away. All right, so now I can easily see just by looking at it that both my clients can sign it because I can see the 2 corresponding colors. So in theory, now I would need to go through and add that to all pages, right? All pages that require initial boxes, which is a little tedious, right? To keep clicking on initial on the left-hand side to drag and drop that over for each client, especially if there are 13 pages like on this offer. All right, so let me show you some tips on how you can expedite that. You can copy and paste fields. So if you want to go ahead and copy these 2 initial boxes so I can paste it on the bottom of every page, what I'll do is I'll click and hold my mouse to drag a square over the initial boxes or any field I want to copy. And when I do that, when I let go of my mouse, you'll see that both are kind of highlighted blue now. So I can go ahead and click on my keyboard, Control-C for PC users, and Command-C as in cat for any Mac users. And I'm going to put that in the chat. So if you are a PC user, you'll do Control-C. Mac users is Command-C. Okay, for copy. So again, what I did is I held my mouse to drag a box around the fields I want to copy. Do Command-C or Control-C on my keyboard, and that copies those 2 fields. So now I can scroll down on my form where I want to drop them next and go ahead and click on the area that you want to drop those on. And now I can do Control-V as in Victor. I'm putting this in chat too, if you have a PC, or Command-V if you have a Mac. And that'll drop it on the bottom of the next field or next page. And if that lays wonky, like if it put it up here, no worries. You can just click to drag to move both over at the same time. So since both are selected, right, I can see both are outlined in dark blue because I clicked and dragged my mouse in a square to select them both. And I'll make those movable together in a group, which helps. So now I can continue going down the form here. Kind of click where you want that to drop, Control or Command-V to go ahead and drop it, just scoot it over a little bit. I can continue doing that all the way down the form. So this is a huge time saver, so you don't have to add one by one. Signature fields are pretty similar. I just want to talk about that because there is a slight difference on signatures. So I'm just scrolling to a page that has signature fields. Here we go. And left-hand side, same concept here, right? I do need to add a signature field for both of my clients to be able to sign. However, here's the noteworthy moment for this part. If you are adding signature boxes to PDFs, make sure to also add the date field. Okay, so you can see that's a separate field. The signatures in DocuSign are not automatically date and time stamped unless you add the date signed field. Now, for your interactive forms, the ones that are fillable, this happens automatically. This is just something you need to know for if you are sending a PDF for signatures, is when you're adding a signature field, it's just one extra step here. So we add that signature field, just make sure you're actually adding the date signed field. Your clients won't even have to change the date themselves. It'll autofill the date as soon as they sign, but you as the agent need to add the date signed field. Again, only if you're editing a PDF and adding in signature fields. Let me know if you have questions on that. That is important for compliance so that it is dated and signed. So just make sure you're adding that extra field on PDFs to allow that to be signed. All right, so now what I can do is I can go ahead and click on send on the top right to send that form right away to be signed. Good question. If you have more than one, more than two recipients, so if you have more than two people need to sign, a couple things on that. Depending on your area, you may have an additional signatures addendum that your broker might want you to get signed. Alternatively, you can add an additional recipient. So if I go back to my recipient field here, you can just watch on my screen. If I were to add another recipient, so I just went back and added one more recipient so I can show you guys how it looks if you have a third or fourth person that needs to sign. Again, check with your broker to see if they would prefer you to use, the additional signatures addendum, but technically you can add an additional initial boxes down here. So now I can see on the top left, I do have another client there. So I could add that, third initial box here to the bottom of each page. So just check with your broker on which one they prefer you to use. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you can send multiple documents in the same envelope as well. So I'm just going back to my envelope here. So if you do want to send multiple documents at the same time in the envelope, you can absolutely do that. So from the documents, from the envelope, you can click on Room Docs to add additional documents. I'll show you how you can, start the process with multiple forms as well. But when you're in the envelope, if you click on Room Docs here, it'll search this specific room. So I can go ahead and select, okay, I also want, the seller's disclosure to be sent at the same time. So I can go ahead and, add 2 forms at a time that will allow me to reorder them if I need to, or X out of any of the forms I do not want. And then when I go next, now again, it will allow me to edit both of those. Okay, and if it's a form you need to sign as the agent, make sure you're adding yourself. Okay, and I'll go ahead and add that just so you can see it. All right, so if it is a form that you need to sign, I'm going to add myself as a listing agent here, just so I can show you. So forms that you need to sign, you will need to make sure that you are added to the envelope. Okay, if you do not need to sign the form, you do not need to add yourself as a recipient. Okay, you'll automatically receive the form back signed from your clients. If it's a form you need to sign, make sure you're adding yourself to the envelope as needs to sign. And I'll show you what it looks like on how you electronically sign that, Terry. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to go back and forth between the form you're editing and the envelope. So if you click go back, it will save your progress, and you can go back and edit the recipients or forms and so forth. All right, so now that I have those added, those signature initial fields, I can click on send on the top right to go ahead and send that out right away for signatures. All right, so that's how we go about editing PDFs. All right, and when you do, so let's say it is a form that you need to sign as the agent, to answer your question, Terry, you can do that in a couple different ways. So first of all, if it is a form that you are set up to sign, that will send to your email for you to electronically sign from there if you would like to. Alternatively, you can sign straight from your DocuSign room in the envelopes tab. This envelopes tab will show you anytime that one or a group of forms were sent out for electronic signatures. If it's a form that you need to sign as the agent, you'll see that it says needs my signature. And you'll be able to sign right from here. So again, you'll only have that option if you add yourself to the envelope. So you would see it right here. All right, so let's talk about how signed forms work in DocuSign, because that is a little different. And I'm going to show you how you can edit signed forms if you need to. All right, and to do so I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to switch rooms. You can just watch on my screen because I do have a signed form in a different room that I practice on to show you guys. All right, so I can explain how signed forms work. And I know we're approaching the end of class here. I'll probably go about 15, 20 minutes over. So if you do have time to stick around, I am going to show you how to do post in-person signing next. So if you have, a couple extra minutes, stick around, feel free. If not, again, this class is recorded and will be on the notes that I sent out and also on the very top of our YouTube channel that I will put in the chat as well. All right. All right, let's talk signed forms. So with the signed forms, how they work in DocuSign, this is different than .loop if you had used .loop in the past. All right, so you'll see now, right, we pointed out these blue icons, which means the form is interactive, right? I can just open it and start typing in it. We talked about this PDF icon, that orange icon, right? And that's what we just worked on editing. And now let's talk about a third and final icon in DocuSign, is that's the signed icon, with this green signed mark here. So whenever the form comes back signed, okay, it'll come back as a totally separate PDF. So let me explain that. So you'll see right here, here's the initial copy of my form, right? It has the blue forms icon. I was able to type in the form and send that off for electronic signature. Then when my client signed that form, the form will come back to my DocuSign room as a totally separate form with a green signed icon. So I can see I always have the original form with the blue form icon, and then I'll get an additional signed form as a separate PDF. So when I click on like the signed PDF, for example, it's not going to be editable, okay? So which is good because it preserves the signatures. So there's no way to accidentally erase your client's signatures. Once it's signed by your clients, it'll automatically be preserved and on your form. Now, with that being said, the signed forms do not come back to your DocuSign room until all parties have signed, okay? So if you have two parties signing on this form and you get an email notification, because you'll get an email notification each time that someone signs the form. And attached to that email notification, you'll have a copy of that form signed by that one client. However, if you try to come to the Documents tab of your room, you will not see the signed form in here until all parties have signed. So if there are two clients signing, both clients will need to sign before it appears signed in your DocuSign room. So let's say that one of your clients hasn't signed it, they're holding up the whole process, you reach out to them, and they say, oh, I didn't get that, right? So you can reshare that to only the client who hasn't signed it yet, right from the Envelopes tab. So in the Envelopes tab, right, this is where we just were a moment ago when we were looking at the ones that need your signature, right? This is what it looks like. This has been an active room for a while here. So this, you can see I have a different envelope each time I've sent one or a group of forms out. And if you do need to reshare, you can click on the envelope and click on more to resend that. And that will only resend it to the client who has not signed yet. So if one of your clients has signed and the other hasn't, you can, again, click on the envelope, come to more, and then resend. And that will, again, just resend it to the client who has not signed yet, so that, put at the top of their inbox so that you can go ahead and get that signed form back. Okay, if you have any questions on that, let me know. Martin, that's interesting. If that was a buyer agency contract that you got from clicking on new and then DocuSign Forms, so the initial and signature fields should automatically display on any forms that you get from this DocuSign Forms section. So under Add and then DocuSign Forms, that's when the initial and signature fields will automatically be added. If you add a PDF, those will not be automatically added. And Martin, if you are doing those steps, feel free to shoot me an email. Weird. Yeah, shoot me an email if you don't mind. I can take a look at your account after class. Support@Scott. Thanks. I'll put this in the chat too, but support at scottleroymarketing.com. Attention, Leah. So I'm happy to look at any of your accounts specifically. Yeah, Martin, if you can shoot over your DocuSign login and password, I'll take a look right after class. All right, so again, you only get the form with the green signed icon once all parties have signed the form. So if that's a form you need to sign, yes, you would need to sign that first before that came back signed to your documents tab of your room. Okay, so I know I'm a little over here, but I am going to show you how to, well, first, I'm going to show you how you can edit the signed form. So real quick, and then we're going to do host in-person signing to wrap up today's class. So if you have 15 more minutes, that should cover it. But if you do get a signed form and you notice something's off on it, so let's say this form right here, I noticed that, you know, my client's legal name is Anthony, but it's listed as Tony, or the settlement date is wrong, whatever the case may be. I'm going to show you how you can edit a signed form in DocuSign. Now, with that being said, please check in with your broker because there are, of course, addendums that can be used as well to make changes to signed forms. So if you can check in with your broker in your area to see what's preferred compliance-wise, that would be great. But this is how you can go about editing forms. So if it's fully signed, right, of course, a PDF here. So I'm going to show you this quickly. It's the same exact concept as editing PDFs, just with different fields. So if we pull that into an envelope, right, because it's a PDF now, because it's fully signed. So to do that, just like we did before, we click on Document Actions on the very top, and then click on Create Envelope. Right, so anytime you want to edit a PDF, we always pull that into the envelope first for that to be editable, or to get editable fields, rather. Now we're adding recipients, just like we did, right? Add recipients, always picking the top option. For room participants, adding my clients. If it's a form I need to sign as the agent, I would add myself. If it's not, do not add yourself to the envelope. And then you can click on Next. To answer the question in the chat, what are the other options when the other end does not have DocuSign access? So typically what happens, like if the form is signed by your clients, right, it'll come back signed. And then you can download the form and send it to the agent on the other side via email. There is technically an email option through DocuSign. I'll point that out, how you do that in just a second here once we get back to your room. But typically, yeah, you would just download the signed form and send that over to the agent on the other side, either via email, or again, you can click on the email option in DocuSign. And this is if the other side does not have DocuSign access. All right, so real quick, I'm just going to show you how you can edit the fields. So edit a fully signed form, right? So this is a signed form. If I do need to make edits to this, I can add strike through and text boxes to make changes to that on the left-hand side. Now, as I mentioned, right, the colors here do coordinate to your specific client. So if you are, you know, have a client selected and select a text box, for example, to lay on the form, that would force your client to fill that out when signing it. So that's helpful sometimes, like if, you know, you are wanting to do like in the personal property section, if you want to make your client fill that out instead of you, you can add a text box. And if it's the color of that corresponding client, they will be forced to fill that out when they go to sign the form. Right? However, sometimes you want text boxes that you as the agent are filling out instead and not your clients, right? So selecting text where it's a color that'll be assigned to the specific client for them to fill it in. If this is a field that you want to add in to just fill in as the agent, we would do that in the pre-fill tools. And this is a newer feature, definitely in the last 3 months, I'd say. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a pencil icon, and those are pre-fill tools. And all that means is basically these are the tools you'll use as the agent to add in any text boxes or fill anything in. These are like your agent fields, and you'll notice they're gray, right? They don't have a color. So that works out well. So on the left-hand side, what I'm going to do first, And in case I lost anyone, I selected the pre-fill tools in the far left gray toolbar, and I'm going to first add a strike through. So in that line option here, we're going to go ahead and strike through the incorrect information. Now I can go ahead and select the text field to go ahead and add in his correct name. The text field, and notice how that's coming over gray, meaning it will not force my client to fill this out. This is only something I have to fill in. Now, if you add a text box, it usually adds pretty small. So you can click on the text box to then resize that on the corners. And I could go ahead and put in the correct name. So far I used the line tool and the text box. You can see other things you would have to add in. Now, again, check with your broker and if they prefer you to use the addendum or if it's okay to go this route, because anytime that you add in a change to a fully signed form, right, you would need to add in initial boxes for all parties to sign that change, right? So make sure if you are making changes to a fully signed form, we can add the initial boxes for our client now to go ahead and sign for those changes. You can see I just switched back and forth to those two colors by clicking on the drop down the top left, switch back and forth and grab the respective initial box. And then you can click send, and that would send off the form to be signed, initialed. That change would be initialed by your clients. And once your clients have initialed it, then you'll see the changes come back to your DocuSign room. So once I click send, if I go back to the documents tab of my room, I will not see those changes on the form until it has come back with signatures. Okay, so if you're editing a PDF and you add in any text boxes, right, or any fields on the left-hand side, you will not see those changes in your DocuSign room until the form has come back signed. Okay, just so you don't think you're crazy or anything. And Maria, good question. If a form is asking for your clients to put in a security code, you can set up a security code in the envelope. I'm not sure if this might have been the case, but I'm going to click go back just to go back to the envelope for a second to show you guys in case you want to add in a security code, or in case that might be happening, you can click on the more option to the right of the recipient name, and there is an option to add access authentication. So especially if you have a client who doesn't feel very comfortable with electronic signatures, you know, you can make them feel a little more comfortable by setting up access authentication. So again, that's under the more tab, more drop down. You would have to provide that code for them, just a heads up. So when you send that, you would need to provide that code to the signer, as you can see here. Maria, if that is not the case with your situation, feel free to email me and I'm happy to take a look further. All right, yeah, no problem. So I'm just clicking on next on the top right, and then I can send this off. And that would go ahead and send this to my clients to be signed. And again, I would see those changes on the actual form after my clients have signed. All right, guys, last but not least, let's talk about a more advanced tip, and that is host in-person signing. So this is not by any means required. This is a more advanced tip, but let's just talk about in case that you, let's say you're going on the appointment with your clients and you want to bring your computer and have them sign it on your computer instead of having to email the forms to your client. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can actually set up the form so that when you get to your appointment, you can pull that up on your computer and just pass your computer or your iPad to your client and they can sign right next to you from your device. Okay, so that's the idea between host and in-person signing. All right, so the first thing that we would do is prepare the form. All right, so if the form is already in your room, you can simply click on it to open it to start editing it. All right, so we do want to edit the form first. So if that form is in your room, you'll pull that open and just start typing in the form to go ahead and edit that. Please keep in mind, if you are editing an interactive form, meaning a form that you can just click to start typing in. Always click Save and Close first on the top right before selecting anything from these document actions. Okay, I've noticed that does not save your changes. So something I wanted to mention while I was here, if you're going on the appointment and you just want to, type in your form and print them out so that you can bring it on your appointment, have your clients hand sign them, and you can explain the forms to them, you can absolutely do that. Go through, fill out the entire form first, then click Save and Close. Okay, so this is really important. It's important that you click Save and Close, then pull the form back up, and then come up to Document Actions to print that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be in that order. I've noticed I've deleted all my work one too many times. So just a reminder, click Save and Close first, then pull up the form and come up to Document Actions to print that out. All right, so that's how you can print out the form if you just want to bring that for hand signatures. However, let's say now we want to instead do host in-person signing so they can electronically sign from my computer on the appointment. So same kind of steps here. I am editing, clicking Save and Close, and then I'm going to pull that into an envelope. And I know I had a question on how to pull multiple forms in an envelope. So just to show you a slightly different way on how to add forms to the envelope. So in the Documents tab where I see my multiple forms here, if I hover my mouse over the form, I can see that dot appear on the top left that I can check. You can also click Select All on the top right. But once I click the checkbox, so once you see some checks on your form, you will then see this bulk actions menu. So you will not see this little icon menu until you have actually hovered your mouse over the form and click to check it. So I can select multiple, and then from this bulk actions menu, you'll notice you can hover your mouse over each icon to see what that icon means. If you could click on the kind of center icon, that'll be the pen icon that is Create Envelope. All right, so the actions I'm showing you now, or the steps rather, are steps that you would do before your appointment to set it up for host in-person signing. All right, and then I'll show you what to do. We'll save it for a draft, actually, and then I'll show you how you can manage it once you get on your appointment. All right, so from here, so I do have those forms added. Of course, you can adjust the order that it's sending in just by dragging and dropping. So the main thing we need to do is just add recipients. So where it says Add Recipients, we're selecting the very top option. This is slightly different when it's a fillable form. You always select the top option under Add Recipient. And that will allow you to go ahead and put in the clients you want to host in-person signing. So from each dropdown, if it's seller 1, seller 2, it depends on your form, of course, which roles are displaying here. But you can go ahead and add in your clients and click Add Selected. All right, so once I have added in these clients here, there's one more thing I would suggest doing is changing the email signature, just so you can easily tell which draft is for your clients. This is optional, but I'm going to go ahead and put in the clients' names, Holly and Michael, in-person signing. All right, so again, all we did here is we're adding in the recipients as normal. So far, things are pretty normal. The only thing I did slightly different here is I'm putting an email subject here so I can tell the difference. I'll show you exactly what it looks like in just a moment here. And this is all done before your appointment, and we're going to click Save and Close on the very top right. Save and Close on the top right, and then I'll save that envelope as a draft. All right, so the next few steps here, so that is what you would do before your appointment, right? All we did was create an envelope, add the recipients, then save it as a draft. And I do have a short 10-minute video on the notes on this as well to help refresh you. It might be more like 20, but I'll share that out in just a moment here as well, so you don't have to remember all these steps. All right, so now this is where things get funky or exciting, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to the e-signature side of DocuSign. So if you're taking notes on this, this is the side of DocuSign This is what we would do once we're on the appointment. So we're on our appointment, we pull up our DocuSign account, and we're going to go to the e-signature side of DocuSign. So that's why this is a little more of an advanced tip here. Okay, this is a feature that's actually on the e-signature side of DocuSign versus DocuSign Rooms is made solely for real estate. The e-signature side sometimes has more features, including host in-person signing. So again, headshot or initials on the top right, and then switch to e-signature. So we switch to e-signature from our headshot on the top right. Step one. Step two, once you're on your appointment, that is we'll click on the Manage tab. So Manage. And we are going to select Drafts on the left-hand side. So again, we switch to e-signature. Step two, select Manage on the top toolbar. Step three, Drafts on the left-hand side. So as you can see here, it does have that name, right? That email subject name that I put. So I like to do that because it makes it super evident which, form or which envelope I need to use. There's also the date. So you'll see the date for today as well to help you know that, okay, this is the correct one to use. But you can see that changing the name makes that super easy. And that was the email subject I changed. So now what we're doing is we're clicking on Continue on the right-hand side. So I clicked on Continue. And now for the recipients, you'll notice if you click on Needs to Sign, there's actually some additional options now that we're on the e-signature side. And one of those is in-person signer. So let's just change those to from Needs to Sign to in-person signer. Now you'll notice when you change that to in-person signer, it does add the host name, right? And that host name is just talking about you as the agent. So whose computer are they signing from? That's who you put as the host name here. So all we've done here, once we click Continue, is click in-person signer. So we're changing that role to in-person signer. When I do so, it will prompt me to put in a host name, which is just talking about you as the agent. Whose computer are they signing from? You can just watch on my screen if you would like to, but I'm going to click on Next on the top right. And this is where it'll prompt me to go ahead and give that to my clients now. So if I click on Next on the top right, and then Send. So 2 more clicks here. This is just overviewing how the form looks, and I'll click on Send. And that will go ahead and start the prompting of my client signing. So it's asking me if I want to sign the form now. I'll click Sign Now. It's going to tell me then me as the agent assigned you to sign this, my client. So whenever you see this page, you can go ahead and pass it to your client, click Start. Your client will click Start rather. Tells me the agent passed the control of the session to my client. I'll click Continue. And I'll allow your client to start signing. And this is exactly what it looks like when your client goes to sign a form, just a heads up, if you have not seen it. They click the checkbox to start, click Start, and then they'll be able to initial each box here. It will allow them to change their name the first time that your client goes to sign. So if they, go by a different name or add, a middle initial to be signed, they can add that here and click Adopt and Sign and go through and sign that. And once they finish that, once they've signed this, then that would come back to you, to your DocuSign room, once all parties have signed. All right, and I know this was kind of a a workaround, right, for a feature, but that does allow you to do set up in-person signing. I'm putting the tip video, which is on the notes as well, in the chat. So if you want to hang on to that and watch it again, I know I personally had to watch that a couple times to get the full hang of it. But I am going to share out these notes one more time just to show you guys where you can access all of the trainings that we have for DocuSign. I will put the DocuSign 201 class, so this class today, at the top here. As soon as that is live online, I'll go ahead and add it, and I'll highlight it once it's in. So just put coming soon. All right, but other things to note on here that I did not mention to you guys, I just want to point out the DocuSign cheat sheet as well, and that'll be written steps on every inch of your KW technology. So if you really like written steps as well, the DocuSign cheat sheet will, if I pull that open, will go ahead and give you written notes on every inch of the KW technology. So if you select DocuSign, we recently had our entire team work on these written instructions. I did this one personally for DocuSign and opportunities. I just want to let you know that this is here because this is brand new, maybe in the last couple weeks. And what it'll do is it'll give you, different topics on the left-hand side, and of course, a table of contents. So you can see, okay, how do I upload a PDF to get signed, right? Which we talked about today. Here are written steps as well. So if you just need to quickly see it, this will give you steps and anything you need to know on that. Sign it. How do I sign as the agent? Oh, well, here are steps to do that. Sign as the agent. So these are the written steps. And again, this is on the notes so that I just, did I put that out? Nope. Let me put this out again. Well, thank you guys for coming to class. I know this is a lot of information. I promise it gets easier. I really do. But with the notes that I just sent out, if you want the DocuSign cheat sheets and all of our cheat sheets, actually, that'll be this link right here. I'll highlight it. So there'll be written instructions. And of course, if you want to eye over the quick tip videos, again, this kind of breaks down the class that I went through today. Creating and sending templates will be a great one for you guys to watch next. All right, but host in-person signing. That in-person signing right there. Okay, so that'll be on the notes as well. As well as I always have the DocuSign 101, 201, and opportunities class, the most recent on the very bottom, and I update that every week. All right, guys, again, I know this is a lot. Let us know if you have questions. Shoot me an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. Attention my name, which is Leah, putting this in the chat again. I'm more than happy to take a look at your account specifically to help you with anything you need. Chances are, if you're running into an obstacle in DocuSign, I've probably run into that as well, and can provide you guys with any workarounds or best practices. Just know I'm here for you for anything opportunities, DocuSign, you know where to find me. Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for your kind words and for coming to class, and just keep me posted on how I can help you guys even further with DocuSign. Yeah, my pleasure. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and feel free again to shoot me an email if you ever need me. Support@scottleroymarketing.com.